the government is asking for, or are we going to be looking for value for money? I would like to see bodies like the Economic Summit Group at the highest level, instead of just spending all their time now talking very big macroeconomy, international trade, export, oil and gas and everything. They should come down to brass tacks and begin to actually look for, they should set up subcommittees that are looking at value for money in the way government money is spent. They are looking for how many of government's MDAs can actually not just continue to be only cost centers, but can also be value accelerators, new wealth creation accelerators in the economy. And most importantly, we should look at the cost of services and the cost of capital projects. I have said before on this program, our roads in Nigeria, for God's sake, they are scandalously expensive. They are the most expensive road per kilometer anywhere in the world for very low quality. You know, our roads get spoiled, they get broken 3 years. If you are lucky, 4 years, they get broken, they get spoiled, and yet they cost more than a kilometer in Holland. The terrain in Holland is probably as bad as any country can be, because most of the country is underwater, which is why, below sea level, which is why they call it the low country. Netherlands means the low country. Yet, they build roads there within the World Bank benchmark. In Lagos, in Nigeria, you shouldn't be building any kilometer more than 350 million naira. Go around all the state, go federal government roads. It's 1 billion something. 1 billion. I have given the example of the ECOWAS road, which is coming all the way from Ivory Coast across 5 countries into Nigeria. It's costing the same thing, 1,080 kilometers. It's costing the same amount as 176 kilometers Lagos-Ibadan's road, which is not even being built afresh. It is just being refurbished and upgraded. It's costing the same 176 kilometers as 1,080 kilometers, the Trans-ECOWAS road. So we need to revisit both the cost at which governments buy services. How much do you award that road cleaning contract? How much do you award that flower planting contract and the maintenance of the flower? How much do you award? We need to look at those two categories. And this is all part of curtailing and curbing the cost of governance at a time like this. But I would directly, personally urge incoming President Buhari to please quickly introduce a protocol of government of officers' perks and benefits, and quickly reinsert the new protocol in the statute, anchor them in our constitution, so that, and then we monitor them. Like I've said, the Economic Summit Group, and then you use professional groups to monitor at the middle level, at the state level, at the parastatal, federal parastatal and ministries level, and let NGOs monitor at the state and local government level whether people are complying with these new protocols. And then the cost of buying services and the cost of awarding contracts. All our governors love to build roads. They love to build low-income housing projects, because these ones give them the largest latitude to inflate costs, to steal money, but they make very little investment in human asset development. Whereas what I learned in development school is that you make more investment in human asset development before you make investment in physical infrastructure.
Mr. Ogunseye, I'd like to go to Dr. Marinho. Dr. Marinho, in line with Mr. Ogunseye's urge to the incoming administration, I'd like you to listen to this. A local government chairman in Nigeria today has 4 SUVs attached to his office that follows him to and from work. He alone has numerous staff profile, including chief of staff, senior special assistant, supervisor for special duties, personal assistant for political matters, personal assistant for community matters. Now, the convoy of an average governor moves around town with official car, utility vehicles, escort vehicles, CSO vehicle, SSS vehicle, police van. That is in addition to the retinue of personal staff, including titles like chief of staff, deputy chief of staff, special advisors, senior special advisors, special assistant, executive assistants, assistant special assistants. The office of the president equally has hundreds of personal aides. Each serving minister has 3 personal aides. Are all these necessary?
I think we forgot to mention in addition to what you have mentioned, we should mention the office of the First Lady of the local government, who also receives a considerable amount of funds and support, all at the citizens' expense. Of course, most of these things are not necessary, and I think that the answer is quite simple. We believe we have a president coming in who is disciplined, who is responsible, and who has a vision for our country. Visions are very difficult to find. And if you have somebody who's got a vision, you should be very, very grateful. And that vision, I'm sure, will manifest on the first day in office when he declares his own salary. And you know, the civil service and the National Assembly cannot earn more than a president. So, to buttress what Bolaji has said and what the other speakers have said, if the president declares his salary on May 29th, nobody will be able to earn more than he's earning, and everybody else will fall in line, quite simply. In regard to the numbers and volumes of people traveling with the president and other people, when we see the president traveling with a jeep and one ferret and so on, everybody else will fall in line. I always remember seeing Professor Ransom Kuti when he was Federal Minister of Health driving to Ijebu somewhere. We were in the same traffic and he was driving himself. And it was quite normal. How are you, sir? I'm fine. Everything all right? Thank you, sir. Bye-bye, sir. Easy. Minister, Federal Minister of Health. But now it's just too much. You see, but we have a responsibility in this, because the citizen has allowed the politician to mature into a monster. And now the politician is a monster. He's now biting us. And we can't do anything about it. We call them honorable. Are they honorable? We call them distinguished. Are they distinguished? We call them excellent. Are they excellent? Let us start on the 29th of May and say, Mr. President, Mr. Governor, Senator, Assembly Member, and Local Government Chairman. None of the funny things we give them that make them feel so big that they want to steal our money in order to support their new lifestyle. But I want to say this to buttress what has been said. The most important part of this is the party. When Bolaji says that the contracts in Nigeria are the most expensive in the world, fully agreed. Why is that? Because when the contract is signed, the political party comes and its officials come and say they want 40, 50, 60% of the contract. So the contractor is left with 20, 30, 50% of the funds to execute the contract. So the contractors, nobody can now supervise the contractor because he's already paid off funds to the party. So if we can ensure that party funding is transparent from May 29th for all political parties, if we can ensure that no minister is coming to say, oh, this contract, I have to give half back to the party, so bring me 200 million and send it to my PA in Lagos or Maiduguri, wherever he is. If we can implement those things using FCC, using ICPC, I believe that we will address some of the issues that are there. But they're very serious issues, and they can be addressed. When a policeman catches a thief, he doesn't say, oh, you're used to stealing, so tomorrow, instead of stealing a loaf of bread, only steal an onion. He says, stop stealing. When a policeman catches a murderer who's killed 3 people, he doesn't say, oh, next week kill 1 more person, then after that try and kill a few people less until you stop killing. You say stop. Corruption can be stopped. All these matters can be stopped. Cuts can be made. I believe with this president, with the people's support, can stop it. But we too must stop making politicians into monsters, because we are the ones sometimes responsible. We're the ones who make them into monsters. Then our children are having birthdays, we invite them. Our sons required to go to university, we send message to them that please send school fees. We want to travel abroad, we say, Governor, I want to travel abroad with my family, oh, please send me some money. Governor now goes and finds money. From where? Let me go to one more point quickly. We have dividends of democracy. Excuse me, no Nigerian has had any dividend of democracy since 1999. What we have is democracy, and people have been using our money to give us exercise books, to give us generators, to give us motorcycles, and they've mistakenly called those dividends of democracy, deceiving us. Those are our rights, because all that funding that they used is our money. It's taken from the budget. If a dividend of democracy is something far, far in excess of democratic expectations, like the governor sees school cert students who are all first-class students, and he says, I'm taking you to Oxford or Harvard so you can see what is wonderful about democracy and what wonderful education is. That is a dividend of democracy. But giving exercise books to children, excuse me, it is a shame if you can't give your children exercise books. If you can't give them textbooks, it's even a greater shame. If you can't give them a roof over their heads, it is even a greater shame.
Well, Dr. Tony Mariho, thank you, of course, is a very well-regarded columnist, speaking to us from the Ibadan Network Center. Let's now come back to Professor Sam Amde. Professor Sam Amde, you've listened to the contributions. If you would like to hear from you, in addition to some of the constitutionally guaranteed costs that we're also trying to deal with, along with the self-indulgence of power that Bolaji referred to.
Thank you. You know, everything, in my opinion, is tied, apart from the constitutional aspect, tied to the political culture of Nigerians. Our value system has decayed. We have lost contact with reality, and we're just committing suicide. And because we're involved in what one may call primitive capitalist accumulation, our capitalism here is primitive, and every Nigerian wants to do anything possible to make money. And that is why you have the issue of corruption. Corruption is a very cancerous. It runs from top to the local government. Therefore, since the political culture encourages it, everybody becomes an active participant, and they go to the market to operate. So that's very, very fundamental. So something the government, the current government, must do something on restructuring, readapting the political culture. It is only when that is done, the value system is changed, the value system is adapted, new perceptions, new attitude, then we can gradually gravitate towards reducing corruption. You cannot eliminate corruption, but you can reduce it drastically. There's too, as they mentioned, there's too much wastage. The wastage because the system allows it. You should remember that 1979 Constitution, 1999 Constitution was, they were all handed over by the military. And if you look at the political culture of the military, that's exactly what we are manifesting now. The only difference is that they are in uniform, we are not in uniform. Contracts were awarded. When contracts are awarded, you know, the big man, there must be a return. Currently in the civil society system, when you are giving contract, there must be money sent back to the big man. In the political party, because the political party must win the next election. If it has to win the election, all those that got contract, those who got ministerial or political appointment must make a return. That is how corruption grows. So corruption has become cancerous. Then we also look at appointment is done on the basis of patronage. They don't look at people who can deliver the goods. This one is from this area. Yes, we believe in federal character, but I think the government, General Buhari, must do something about the issue of ministerial position to all the states, ministerial position to all the zones. They must sit down, do strategic thinking. They must organize. So this sector, this is the candidate, this individual has the capacity. But part of the problem, of course, is going to be gradual. The Buhari government cannot do it just like the military. You have to start changing people's lives, because people believe that if you are from my state, you are in government, you are representing us. But unfortunately, most ministers don't even go back to the state to return what they've got. They look after themselves. So the issue of one minister from one state may not also hold water. Then I also want to emphasize the issue of personal emolument. The stakeholders in government, the PAMSECs, the ministers, depend solely on this. Until Obasanjo monetization policy, people were changing furniture every 6 months, changing cars. And if you look at what is happening currently, a lot of the cars may even find their way into the market within the public service. So that's part of the end product of the corruption of this present administration. Then we must also look at the factor of contract. Yes, while we endure the fact that contracts should be awarded, you know, part of the problem of this government is that when contracts are awarded, there is a built-in interest into the contract. Already from source, when the contracts are awarded, the package that is entitled to whoever takes it from source. It doesn't even go even to the contractor before it's taken. It's taken at source. So you don't expect a product. So there is need for a total overhaul.
Is it a problem? Is it a problem of this government, or is it a problem nationwide?
No, it's a nationwide. Yes. What I'm saying, it has been on over a period of time. It is systemic. It's been built into it. So what did this government need to do? Yes. It cannot do a total overhauling.
Sorry, Professor Sam Amdi, yes. I would like you to keep this on hold.
Okay.
What the incoming government, your advice for the incoming government. Okay. But one point to take away from what you have said is that you cannot eliminate corruption. No. But there are those who believe that corruption can be eliminated if only we can run e-government. Gentlemen, we'll take a short break. I'd like to keep you on hold. We'll take a short break and we will look at this. How feasible is it to run an e-government to eliminate corruption when we come back? Thank you once again for joining us. If you've just tuned in, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're looking at reduction of cost of governance. And just before we went on break, Kingsley reminded me that, of course, what we are dealing with is reduction of cost of governance and not corruption, which is a whole wide subject area. But again, I'm also reminded that running an e-government will help to block leakages, which in itself will reduce cost of governance. Maybe I'd like to pass this to you, Mr. Shiliza.
Thank you very much. Running an e-government definitely will reduce cost of governance, because the first thing is it will reduce wastages. Now, it has been implemented in some sectors by this current government that is exiting on 29th May. For example, the salary system, the IPPS, the payment of contract system, all these things, it was able to, remove ghost workers from the system, and then things were being paid, the monies were being paid directly to beneficiaries. But that is addressing just an aspect of it. It is not e-governance will not address the aspect of policy making. It cannot address the aspect whereby maybe the National Assembly or an arm of government will appropriate onto itself certain amount as for payment, because that is just what the e-government is going to do. Now, the other aspect is that commitment. You see, in this country, we are not lacking ideas, we are not lacking institutions that are to oversee or to monitor certain things, but it is commitment to doing the job that is the problem. The same governance that might help, you find out that from within the system, there are those that will frustrate it because it will take off their food from their table. A lot of let's take the contract aspect, for example. The previous speakers had spoken about issue of building in percentages for either political parties or certain principals somewhere. That is even a lesser evil compared to some places whereby it is the government functionaries themselves that are supposed to award the contract that ends up awarding these contracts onto themselves. What do we do about such things? More so that the civil service has been grossly politicized in some years back. We were talking about constitutional provision whereby each state should produce a minister. Okay, if we cannot flout the constitution and we have to produce 36 ministers, the 6 zonal ministers shouldn't be provided. Then, when you get to the issue of permanent secretaries, it's even more problematic now because it's a political issue. In times past, it is based on merit. Now it is no longer based on merit. Appointment of permanent secretaries are based on geopolitical considerations. They will say each state has to produce one, and I can vividly remember there were times whereby certain states did not have people that were qualified to be PAMSECs, and therefore they had to fish for people from those states and given accelerated promotions above their peers so that they'll be PAMSECs from that state. Now that the civil service has been politicized, and there should be surgical operation within the civil service. I am telling you that some of the biggest contractors and the wealthiest people benefiting from contracts today are in the civil service.
Okay, well, Mr. Lisa, thank you for your perspective. I'd like to, Claire, disrupt the order of responses from our guests. Bolaji, I was going to go to him, but let's take Dr. Tony Mariho from the Badon Network Center. The other contributors can also listen in on this. We've been dealing almost basically now with the executive at the federal, state, and local government level. Let's try to deal with the legislature. Bolaji, in his contribution, did say, listen, are we getting value for money? Considering the size and the cost attendant to running our various legislatures, National Assembly, State House of Assembly, and then also legislators at the council level, how can we begin to deal with the cost? How much they earn, their allowances, the number of committees, and of course the so-called oversight that is no more than shakedown sessions for various MDAs. Dr. Mariho.
Thank you very much. We need to have politicians as servants. And we need, was mentioned earlier about ethics and morals and so on, we need to have a culture where even the existing politicians who have just survived an election be called upon to become servants, if only to rescue the country during these next 4 years.